Hi everyone, just a quick video this week on a few layout updates really, things I've been doing to some of the rolling stock, just a few bits and bobs I've been working on over the last couple of weeks. Right, I'm going to jump straight into this. First thing I wanted to mention, and this is just to finish off really the last point I wanted to make on the Black 5, which I've covered in the last couple of videos. I don't think I addressed this in my review, but I've heard a few complaints about people who have one of these that the haulage capacity isn't particularly good. I just wanted to share what I'd done because I've pretty much doubled the haulage capacity of this just with two really simple changes. So previously, even a train like this, so what's that, 5 coaches worth of vans, kit built and RTR stock, this would wheel slip and struggle with them. I'll put way more behind it in a sec just to show you the haulage capacity. But all I did to sort this is, you can just remove the smoke box. Hang on, I can show you a bit easier. So you can buy liquid lead, which is like these little lead ball bearings effectively. I've just put a load of those inside it's not a Ziploc bag, but you know those bags that you squeeze the top and it kind of goes together to seal them. And because half this boiler is just empty where the smoke generator goes on some of the other models, this one obviously doesn't have it, I literally stuffed the body full of liquid lead just in a bag. So that's added, you know, hundreds of grams onto the weight. Just stick that on, hopefully get it straight. That's straight, yeah. So that's the first thing that's helped. The second one is, and I'll take this off the track for this so you can see. On the bogie, right here, there is, sorry, my helper's trying to get involved. Yeah, on the bogie right here, there is a spring, and the spring is enough to have an effect. I think it kind of lifts the locomotive off the track slightly. I've removed that off mine at a few people's recommendation, and that's made a massive difference to the haulage capacity, which I'll show you in a sec. I keep knocking the steps off, so I've had to reinforce these with some plasticard there. I just need to touch up the paint. That's why there's a bit of white showing through. Now, I did have the spring here to show you. I just had it on top of my phone case. Just look round, and my dog has just eaten the spring, so unfortunately I can't show you that. It's never to be seen again. Well, I might see it again. I might pick it up in a poo bag in the next couple of days, but yeah. Oh, it's not. There it is. Jeez, I thought he'd eaten it for a second, but it's not. So just a reminder to always be careful around your pets when you've got little springs and other model railway related items nearby. So this is the culprit. Basically, you unscrew the bogie, and then this is what you need to remove. So I'm just going to get a few more wagons behind this, and then I can show you what the haulage has been improved to. So I think once upon a time, this wouldn't even be able to get these wagons out the station. Right, so I've got an absolutely massive, you know, scale length train behind this now. Previously, this would never have been able to budge this. The wheels would just be spinning. But now it just pulls away like a dream. So yeah, those two little tweaks, if you've got one of these, you can get this up to, like, you know, scale haulage capabilities fairly easily just by those two little things. And this has gone from being able to max out at a 6-coach train to now it can easily handle, you know, 12 to 15 coaches, absolutely no problem. Right, next little update that I've got is in regards to these non-corridor coaches that I've got. I think they're Gresley, a mix of Gresley and Thompson coaches. So these are Hornby ones. They're really nice, super detailed, very fragile. I'm always knocking bits off them. And previously I had, so on all my coaches I have magnetic couplings. The problem is, well, the problem was with these, the gap between the locomotive and tender was still, the gap between the coaches was still quite big. So I think previously it was about here, even with the magnetic couplings. And the ones I had on there previously were these ones from West Hill Wagon Works that I use on all my other coaches, right? So these came out a while ago and I bought them when they first came out, and they give good close coupling between corridor coaches like these with the corridor on the end, but not so much these ones. So I randomly had a thought. Recently I bought these wagon close coupling systems from West Hill Wagon Works as well, and I used them on these Scale wagons here to get you know, really good close coupling on them, so the buffers are basically touching. You can see them under there. I've got a whole rake of these Scale mineral wagons that I featured in a previous video, me fitting and weathering these, but I thought, I wonder whether these same couplings would work on coaches too. So I ended up trying them on here, and sure enough, these coaches are now, you know, have scale length between the couplings, i.e. the buffers are literally pressed up against each other, which is really good. The other good thing to note about these is on my old, with the old ones, I obviously have like polarity, so you'll notice that this one has A on it and that one has B. So these two coaches can couple up, you know, without any problem. But if I was to turn one of these around, obviously those magnets are just gonna like repel each other. They don't stick together properly at all. But on the new West Hill Wagon Works couplings, you can literally spin a coach around and it doesn't matter, like it will still just connect. So massive improvement on them, which is really cool. I'll leave a link to these couplings below. I mean, they do ones specifically for coaches. I think the ones I got were specifically for wagons though, and they work really well with these coaches. I think in part because they've got this kind of kinematic system, which means even if they're really close coupled, they can still get around my third radius curves no problem. So yeah, definitely worth trying. If you've got some of these style coaches, maybe get yourself a bag of those couplings and you can literally get them right up against each other, which is really cool. And then yeah, it goes without saying they go really well with the Scale wagons too. Again, they're fitted with this kind of kinematic style coupling, so I can have these buffer to buffer and they still get round my third radius curves in the tunnel to get to the fiddle yard. You know, they're basically going at quite a sharp angle there. They get around there no problem. So yeah, definitely recommend picking up some of these. And obviously I still have my KD coupling on the end. Next project I've been working on is in relation to a few of the locomotives. So the first one was my V2. So you remember on my Black 5 video, I really wasn't keen on the really chunky drawbar between the locomotive and tender. And the other locomotive that I own that has the same system is this one. So I've actually chopped it off. So on the locomotive, I actually had to hack it off with some, you know, my Zoron track cutter things that cut through the rail. And in its place, I just put this little hook, which is made from a hair clip. Not one of my hair clips. I don't have enough hair to clip. And then I used the rest of the hair clip and super glued it onto the tender here. And that's basically just hooks onto the locomotive like that. And now I pretty much have, you know, a much closer coupling, and I don't have that huge chunky thing looking like really weird underneath the locomotive. So I much prefer the way this looks. You might think, well, if you super glued it on there, surely it's not very strong and it will just come off. But I've had 12 coaches behind this and it's not budged at all. I think it's easily strong enough. The only thing is you lose the tender pickups. Although most of my Bachmann locomotives don't have tender pickups anyway, and they all work fine without stalling. But there's 2 wires in this that you just need to solder onto the motor in that, and then just run the wire going across. So you could still use the tender pickups if you want to. I've just chosen not to bother because there isn't really much benefit for me. So yeah, this will still get round my 3rd radius curves as well. So yeah, it's just you know, from the angle that I film out and view the layout, it's just improved the look of the locomotive a lot. So yeah, I'm happy with it. So after doing the Black 5 and the V2, I felt like I was on a bit of a roll. So I had a crack at my Britannia as well. So this is another loco that had a massive gap between the locomotive and tender. And it does come with a drawbar that's adjustable. But when I adjusted it, it couldn't get through even the slightest curve. So I thought, well, there must be some way to modify this to figure it out. And it turns out there is. So I've used the same drawbar. You can see that I've got it on the close setting of the 2 holes. And all I had to do to be able to use this was on this back plate here, where my thumb is, there was 2 buffers. And all I've done is sand those away, and that gives you like an extra millimetre or so. So this tender can turn enough to get round curves. So this again, you know, even though it looks like it's barely turning there, it can get around my 3rd radius curves, no problem. I had this on the layout running for the last couple of days, and yeah, I haven't had any issues with it. I did have to cut, I kind of made this, there's like a tarp, it's not a tarpaulin, but there's kind of like a concertinaed bit of, I don't know what the material is, leather or something, that goes between the cab and the back of the tender on the real thing. So I've just used a bit of plastic card to try and emulate that. I had to cut that back a little bit, but yeah, it's reduced the gap between the loco and tender to basically a scale length gap. And I haven't really had to modify much on the loco other than, you know, sanding off a tiny little buffer on the back of the thing that you wouldn't see anyway. So yeah, that's another easy improvement to a really good model. And then my last locomotive that I wanted to work get some similar results with is my Bachmann Crab, LMS Crab. So again, this had like a huge gap between the locomotive and tender, and only one setting you could have the drawbar set on. For this one, because there was only one setting, I ended up just making my own drawbar out of plasticard and just drilled 2 holes in it. So that screw on the left has gone through one hole, and then the tender just goes through into the other one. I need to paint that black, but you can't really see it, but I will get around to doing that. And that has meant I've basically got the full plate then covers the gap between the loco and tender looking down, so you can't see any daylight, and you've pretty much got a scale length gap between them, there or thereabouts. So yeah, super easy to do for all 3 of those locos. So that's it really, just a few tweaks you can make to your locomotives that might be worth doing if you fancy it. Other than that, I haven't done too much else on layout because it's pretty much done. So I'm just, you know, enjoying making little improvements to the locomotives and the stock and things like that, and just enjoying running it really. I think all I've really done is moved a few of the cows and sheep around, or replaced the ones that get squished when my dog kind of rests his head on it watching the trains go by. So yeah, just moving things around really. Anyway, I'll stick some links in the description for anything I've discussed. I hope it was helpful, and I'll catch you on the next one.